the Win It podcast. I'm Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. Taking a look at tonight's 5-game NBA slate, and it's a decent one for 5 games. We're looking at all 5 being in play. About all 10 teams are. Every total is over 200, so that's nice tonight. But looking at the top games, you're looking at Sacramento and Denver with a nice 219 total, basically a pick 'em with the spread there. Sacramento comes in with the second highest team total of the night, Portland being first, and then you got Denver, Washington, Orlando, New Orleans. It's kind of your top options. The Jazz, Sixers, Brooklyn and Houston are the only 2 teams that have a team total less than 100, but 99 and 98 aren't bad. But you're likely not taking a lot of Houston guys against that tough Utah defense, especially on the road at their prices. But pretty juicy slate tonight, but obviously I think the Kings Nuggets is your favorite game, and I think there is blowout concerns with Portland and Brooklyn, and it is an 11.5 point spread, but I'm not really too concerned there. I think that's another great game to target as well. Moving over to point guard, not a lot of injuries on tonight's slate, which is nice, but that also means not a ton of value. Looking at point guard, Rajon Rondo has the Q next to his name, but he's considered probable with that turf toe he's been dealing with. Obviously, it's been no issue as he's been just a monster. I mean, triple-double coming off his close to a triple-double, 24, 9, and 10 in the last game against Denver with 5 steals. The steals and assists have been really heightening Rondo's floor and ceiling there. 5, 3, 3, and 6 steals in the last 4 games. All but double-digit assists in the last 5. He had 9 last game, so a really solid play again tonight. He's one of the top options. And speaking of top options, I think Damian Lillard's kind of the easy play tonight. But I mean, you can work with him, John Wall, Drew Holiday. I think John Wall and Drew Holiday are pretty good tournament plays tonight, while I'd rather roll with Damian Lillard and Rondo in kind of all formats there. So another juicy matchup for Lillard at home, just playing stellar basketball right now. So he's a pretty solid play, pretty safe play tonight. If we're going cheaper, I do like Emmanuel Mudiay. He's still seeing over 30 minutes a game and playing into the mid-30s. Dropped a dud against Sacramento. It wasn't a great game, just 20 fantasy points, but I'll look for him to rebound back home tonight. I think he's one of the safer mid-tier plays tonight, especially with Elfrid Payton not being as productive with Brandon Jennings back there. So I think he's kind of that middle safe play if you're looking at anyone. But speaking of Brandon Jennings, since he's coming to Orlando, 25 minutes there, so that's nice. 28 and 30 DraftKings points in that span. So seeing it right around 25 minutes, obviously a matchup against Philly is pretty favorable. 12, 7, and 4, 18, 4, and 3, the usage rates there. Taking shots. He's taken 13 3-point attempts in those 2 games. So I like him at his price. I think he's a pretty decent cash game option as well, as long as he's seen 25 minutes, which should be, I mean, they traded for him for a reason, so he should be out there for at least that amount. And also a great tournament play for kind of paying down and paying up for some guys like Cousins or Davis tonight. So I like Jennings as kind of the only real loan option down there. You're not really looking at a lot of guys, but there is one intriguing play, and that's Shelvin Mack, 3,600. Utah traded for him and came off the bench, and that's what he's going to be doing, but very productive. 16, 6, and 3 in 24 minutes, 7 of 11 from the field. Just 3,600 against a bad Houston defense. Definitely in play for tournaments. I wouldn't touch him in cash games, but I mean, if you want a viable punt option, he's looking like the guy to really take, who has some decent upside. So I do like him, but Lillard, Rondo, kind of your top options. Wall, Holiday, more of your contrarian move there, and GPPs, and then Mudiay, Jennings. So that's kind of it for point guards tonight. Shooting guards, James Harden is up there, but I'm not really inclined with taking him tonight. He's played, well against Utah this season. He's averaged about 50 DraftKings points in the 2 games. I'm probably looking to pay up at other spots tonight. If I'm paying up for anyone, it's likely going to be Cousins against that hapless Denver front court. So I think he's going to be the guy. And shooting guard is actually not a bad spot to pay in that mid-tier range tonight. If you're looking at guys like Oladipo, definitely a nice GPP play. I mean, he's been coming off some back-to-back 40-point games, playing heavy minutes, but we've seen him go into that 20s range at times, and it's not a consistent play enough for me for for cash, although, I mean, it is a nice matchup against Philly. I'm more leaning towards guys like Rodney Hood, Will Barton, Fournier, kind of just a price tier lower. Really, all three in great spots. I think Barton and Hood have a higher upside, but you could argue Fournier against Philly as well, who's been playing monster minutes, continues to play well. Very consistent, 30, 28, 39, 32, 32, and 31 in the last 6 games there, and showed up against Indiana there. So the mints have been pretty consistent. Tobias Harris was hurt before the break, and then he's traded, played 34 there. So he's your starting small forward for Orlando. So he's a really solid play tonight against Philly. Will Barton's got the nice upside, and his minutes have taken a bump with Randy Foye out of town. Back-to-back 31-minute games, so that's really nice, really encouraging to see, especially against Sacramento tonight, who he just laid 33 DK points on a few days ago. So he's a pretty solid play. If you're looking at other options, I mean, Gary Harris, if you want to talk about a guy who's getting monster minutes, it's Gary Harris, but not extremely productive, but a decent punt option at shooting guard because you're not going any lower. But minutes 38, 40, 36, and 40 before that. So they've been there. He's been above 20 fantasy points in each of the last 4 games. So not a huge upside guy. He's not going to win you any GPPs, but I mean, a decent cash game option for his price. So he's pretty solid. But if you're looking, I still think Oladipo, Hood, Barton, Fournier, that range is where you're looking at tonight. I'm not too inclined with paying up for even McCollum, as good as he's been. He's been consistent, but you're looking at his numbers a little bit cheaper tonight. Moving over to small forward, no big studs tonight, so it's a pretty weak spot, but you like Danilo Gallinari against Sacramento. You like Gordon Hayward against Houston. Those are your kind of safe cash game options. Like Rudy Gay in tournaments tonight. I think actually he might be a little bit higher on than he was in the past just because he put up that nice 35 against Denver a few games ago or a few days ago. So still at that price, I think he's a pretty safe option as well. So those 3 are your safe, ideal options tonight because there's not much lower. You're looking at maybe Robert Covington as a tournament play against Orlando's defense. They rank in the bottom half in opposing 3-point percentage, so it's not bad. They rank in the middle of the league in turnovers. Those are kind of Robert Covington's ideal stats that he usually racks up if he's going to go for a high upside game. But, I mean, the minutes are always scattered, 25, 25, and then 32 and 34. They're up and down kind of depending on how the game's going, how he's playing, if he can get hot from the field. Been shooting the ball well from 3 over the last 2 games, 57, 42, and 63%. So hopefully he can tack on some peripheral stats to add on to that because we have seen his upside go through the roof. But definitely worth a look tonight on a short slate in a really weak small forward spot. So going any lower, Joe Johnson on DK, not an ideal matchup against the Aminu there. I'm probably fading him tonight just because of that tough defense. And in that same game, Maurice Harkless, even with Noah Vonleh back, 25 minutes last game against Utah, 17 and 7. Kind of the only viable punt option at small forward at a decent price that you feel comfortable with right now. And 29, 28, and 42 points in the last 3 games. And against Utah, Golden State, and Houston, you expect another big total game tonight. I think Harkless is still going to get some run. Portland can match up with them well with Harkless on the floor. So I think he's definitely in play tonight. Not expecting a huge game, but I still think 20, 25 fantasy points is a reasonable output there. Moving over to power forward, looking at Boogie Cousins, DeMarcus Cousins, coming off a monster 37-20 game. Not quite Anthony Davis numbers from the last game, but I think Cousins is he's 1,000 more, been far more consistent this season than Davis. He's got the easier matchup. Both are on the road, but I mean, you're looking at what Davis did. I think a lot of people are going to be drawn to him. Still a solid play. We know what he can do. I'm paying up for Cousins on DK there. You can take your pick on FanDuel. I think both are in play, but I'm on the Cousins side tonight. But I think Davis is still going to be the actual contrarian move on DK, where they're both at the same position, but Cousins is still the preferred choice for me. There's a lot of cheaper guys tonight. If you're looking at, Derek Favors, a nice matchup against Houston. They rank in the bottom 3 in fantasy points per game allowed to opposing power forwards. Love Thaddeus Young for consistency. I really like Nerlens Noel's nice tournament play because you know what? People are pretty ticked about the last game against Dallas. Got into some foul trouble. just played 19 minutes with 5 personal fouls. And you know what? I'm going to forget that one because he was very consistent before then. Yes, he does stand a chance to run into some foul trouble at times, but who doesn't? No, a pretty safe option tonight. As far outside as the matchup goes, against Orlando at home, they rank in the middle of the league in rebounding. Struggled against power forwards this season. They rank in the bottom 5 in efficiencies. So Noel's a nice play because I think people are going to be drawn to Favors, Young, and definitely Aaron Gordon, Aaron Gordon's just extremely consistent right now. And if you're looking for 30 to 35 DK points on a night-out basis, it's Aaron Gordon. So a nice matchup against Philly. So Gordon's definitely the preferred option there. He's a great cash game play. He's going to be in my cash game last night, especially with the upside he brings as well. So definitely a great play in all formats. Orlando ranks 28th in rebounding, 30th in turnovers. So Gordon should get those nice peripheral stats to maybe go with some nice scoring tonight, but he's a pretty safe option either way. If you're looking cheaper, I mean, it's not an ideal night for value at power forward. So you look at Kenneth Faried and what he's been doing in 13, 23 minutes the last 2 games, no real foul trouble at all, 1 and 2 in that game. And he's been benched. I mean, you look at his play, it's always been like that. So he's definitely really a risky play. But if he gets anywhere from 28 to 30 minutes against the Sacramento team, probably going to be a solid bet for some points, but it's very risky. Going any cheaper, Ryan Anderson, kind of in play for me in tournaments, just because we've seen that upside at times. He's a scorer off the bench. We have seen those 30-plus upside games. So I'm looking at here at Washington. I think, especially with Ashik out, you're going to see maybe a little bit more Anderson, a little more Davis at the 5, but it's not going to be incredibly noteworthy for a minutes bump. But at 5,300, I mean, with tonight's slate and what it is, he's in play for tournaments for sure. Moving over to center, depending on the site, but really like Brook Lopez on DK. Gets a nice matchup against Portland. Not great against centers. They haven't been all season. I think he's kind of an easy top option there. I think on FanDuel, I mean, if you're looking, it's either him or Cousins as your top center options. And if you're going the more balanced route, which might be the way to go tonight just because of the scarce value, Lopez is a pretty decent option tonight against Portland. So big fan of him, especially just because of his usage down low. So it's not quite as high as Boogie Cousins, but it is up there. So it's nice. He is the offensive threat. So he's definitely in play for me tonight. But if you're looking at it's a great night to go tournament option with center. If you're not on FanDuel, because Cousins is probably going to be the popular play. But you look at Jahlil Okafor. Obviously, he's been up and down, but coming off a really nice game, 31-8 against Dallas. He's another guy. I mean, the foul trouble's been there this season. We saw that the game before against New Orleans, so it can happen. Hard to get away from that price tag of 6,400 right there. A lot of upside for that price, so he is definitely in play for me tonight. I think you throw in Marcin Gortat as well. Obviously, a matchup against New Orleans is very favorable, so they rank in the bottom half in rebounds and have been dreadful against centers all season. So Gortat kind of a sneaky play tonight. I don't think a ton will play him. And if you're looking elsewhere, I mean, we saw Jokic in the game against Boston go off for big points. But you know what? He is very risky. You want to talk about foul trouble. I mean, played 4 minutes against Sacramento. So that's an iffy one for me, especially at that price tag. And it's kind of on a night where you're going to have to be really perfect yet again, just on a 5-game slate, because 5 high-scoring games with 5, real superstars in play that can go off and just end your lineups if you don't have them. You got to kind of hit everywhere. So he's a little bit risky for me. But if you're looking at other options, if you're looking at a cheaper option, Mason Plumlee, looking at him, back-to-back games of over 25 fantasy points. Nice matchup against Brooklyn. Once again, average rebounding team. If he gets anywhere from 20 to 25 minutes or 25 to 30 minutes, Plumlee's a pretty safe bet on DK at 4,500. Also a little bit risky, but we have seen him flirt with that 25 range on average this season. So once again, I think there's clear-cut options up top, but you're looking at a lot of risk down low, and Plumlee's just another one of those guys because you're not really touching anyone else. You're not hoping Jokic gets into foul trouble and Joffrey Laverne has to come in and go 34 points against the Kings defense. So, you're kind of looking, I think Okafor's a nice 6,400, and that's about it. And then getting any lower. So pay up for your centers tonight. You're looking at the guard spot, the shooting guard and small forward if you want to pay down with Harkless. So other than that, it's not a lot of value tonight, but should be a fun night. So that's going to wrap things up here at the Miz to Win It. Check out Daily Fantasy Cafe for all our great tools and content.